Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and this is going to be the first of a two-parter, really, not because they're going to be too long, I hope, but because the second part is distinct from this. They can both be watched independently of each other. It's just that one would clearly follow on from the other. And the second one would be of more interest to particularly Labour supporters than those simply interested in this Brexit water slide show. So just to quickly recap before I go over what was bloody news to me today, Parliament came back from summer and kicked Boris Johnson's arse all over the shop. His no-deal plan was in absolute tatters. The Benn Act legally compels him to seek an extension if Parliament does not approve a withdrawal agreement by October the 19th. And that is the case. That is true. If that happens, Johnson has to sign that letter. If he doesn't, the courts will compel him to do so. He's trapped as far as that goes. But there's a fly in the ointment. There is a flaw in the Benn Act which can be taken advantage on from those who want a no deal. And it's been known about privately, but it's now been made public for reasons I'll go through. So what is this chink in the armour and what have Parliament got to do about it? First, if you find yourself enjoying the video, then please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. So, when I first started talking about the success of the Benn Act being passed by Parliament to prevent Johnson taking us out of the EU without a deal against the will of Parliament, I noted that people like the Labour Party, for example, were getting high-level legal advice. Is it watertight? Is this definitely going to compel him? And the answer we were getting back publicly was yes, he's got no wriggle room here. Now, it seems to be that there were senior legal experts who were actually spotting a bit of a flaw and didn't want to say anything publicly because that would alert the likes of Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson, who would then take advantage of it. So Julian Mohm QC, for example, who is one of the people who was involved in the court case with the Court of Session, is involved in another one, by the way, as well, which has resulted in a petition being sent to Boris Johnson, but I might do that in another video. But he has written a little bit of article publicly today to explain what the flaw is, not because he wants to look all clever, but because it seems now that Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings are aware of it and they're going to take advantage of it. So yeah, it looks like the flaw was being kept quiet so as not to alert Johnson's cronies. But there was a story in the Mail on Sunday. Now, the Mail on Sunday, of course, the Sunday version of the Daily Mail, very pro-Brexit paper, not at all interested in the truth. Very pro-Tory newspaper as well. I'm not saying all Tory newspapers are strangers to the truth, but this one certainly is. But it's talking about, to bolster the hardline Brexiteers. It's talking about putting a watered-down version, I think it described it, of the withdrawal agreement back in front of Parliament, to which you think to yourself, this has no chance because the same thing is still the same thing. You've got all these people who want a no deal. You've got a load of other people who are going to oppose any Conservative withdrawal agreement. How's it going to get through? The other plan is then, as soon as this withdrawal agreement is put before Parliament, who'll then vote for it, he thinks, and he might be right, he's then going to resuspend Parliament. A double outrage. We may be more dependent than we thought we originally were on the Supreme Court finding against the government on this illegal prorogation aspect, or, is it illegal? That's the key thing. If the Supreme Court do not find against the government, this is a real serious risk now of him being able to get that no deal. Now, the annoying thing for me is what it all stems from is something that I've been talking about for so long, and I didn't connect the dots, but I'm not a legal expert. It's about the EU Withdrawal Act, the European Union Withdrawal Act. And as I kept trying to say, like, you get these Brexiteers going, no, MPs voted for this. That was the route to take us out of the EU. No, it wasn't. The European Union Withdrawal Act specifically lays out the condition for legally leaving the EU. And it includes, but is not restricted to, Parliament voting in favour of the withdrawal agreement. The problem is that there is a part of this withdrawal agreement that is now playing into the hands of the Brexiteers who've always denied its existence. So what is the issue? So the Benn Act basically says that the Prime Minister has to request a deadline if Parliament hasn't approved a withdrawal agreement by October the 19th. But what if Boris Johnson puts the withdrawal agreement in front of Parliament, and it doesn't have to be changed, by the way, because it'll be a new session of Parliament, so it doesn't have to be changed. But let's say there's some little tweaks in the political declaration or something. He puts it in front of Parliament, and let's say they vote for it. They vote in favour of it. He won't then have to sign the letter, because the Benn Act says that if Parliament agrees to withdrawal agreement, then he doesn't have to request an extension. So he doesn't sign the letter, doesn't have to, and he won't go to prison for it. But you'll be saying, well, but then they've voted for the withdrawal agreement. Doesn't that mean we leave the EU with the deal? Hasn't he somehow cunningly resurrected this deal? Hasn't he been clever? No. Well, he may have been clever. Well, he hasn't been clever. Someone has. But that's not what he'll have achieved. Section 13, if you want to look it up, Section 13 of the EU Withdrawal Act, which is a little bit garbled for me, so it presumably needs a legal expert to make sense of it. But certainly what it does is it provides further regulations, further obligations it's called. So it's like, yes, Parliament has to vote through the withdrawal agreement, but then there's other things Parliament has to do as well. There has to be a new Act of Parliament for a start, and I knew about that. And so actually, yeah, in theory, I should have been able to think of this, but I didn't. There you go. Good job, there are cleverer people than me out there. So in order to leave on that withdrawal agreement, we need a new Act of Parliament to be able to push it through. And that won't be done. Because what will happen is, this will be the scenario. So the new session of Parliament begins. Boris Johnson puts forward the withdrawal agreement. And that means, you know, if Parliament agree to it, that eliminates the need for the extension. And then let's say they vote for it, they vote in favour of it. So then, of course, what you would expect the Prime Minister to do if he wants to leave with a deal is he would put before the House the further obligations, the rest of it, the rest of the admin that has to be done in order for us to leave with that deal. But let's say he doesn't do that. Let's say he just doesn't do it. What then? He doesn't have to sign that letter. We're heading towards a no deal. But he's saying, oh no, but you've just agreed to withdrawal agreement. We're going to leave with the deal. He'll say that to the country because the country won't know better. I wouldn't have known better unless it's pointed out to me. And then on October the 31st, out we go without a deal. That's it. Simple as that. So how is he going to get Parliament to vote for it? Because the numbers aren't there to get through a withdrawal agreement. It's like this. He tells the hardline Brexiteers, all those people that have never voted for the withdrawal agreement, not just the ones who didn't vote the first two times, but then did on the last one, like Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the real hardcore ones that have never voted for it. Let's say he points this out to them and he says to them, you vote for this withdrawal agreement, it'll go through. What you're actually voting for is a no-deal Brexit, because I won't put the further obligations in front of the House. So you're basically voting for a no deal on the sly. Well, they'll eagerly do that. So even after the no deal Brexit, you might think to yourself, well, he hasn't put the further obligations in front. So, okay, we'll leave without a deal. But, you know, the deal's still there to be had. You know, maybe a week or two later, he's sort of forced to put him in front of the House. And Parliament eventually votes through those legal obligations. And then, you know, we have left with that deal. We just have a couple of weeks of shit in the meantime. No, because the votes that will have got that agreement through will turn on the further obligations. So even if they are brought before the House, they will fail because there won't be the numbers for them, because the numbers that got the agreement through will melt away. So Boris Johnson will have his prize. The only consolation will be that he is still screwed. I don't see how this helps him at all, because that means a no-deal Brexit. That means all that stuff, that Operation Yellowhammer, that they say is worst case scenario, but we know is not, happens. And the general election, he couldn't get the general election in October. The general election will happen late November. And then we'll have had several weeks of no-deal Brexit, completely exposing the Brexiteer lies, which surely, and I know we can't ever say anything definitely is going to happen in these mad times, that is going to sink both the Brexit Party and the Conservative Party in an election. And we end up with okay, we're out of the EU. That's a disaster. That's a disaster. But he personally has sunk. And remember, this was all about him staying as Prime Minister. So it all seems a bit strange to me. But no one else cares about Boris Johnson, just like he doesn't care about anyone else. The real Brexiteers will have won. You know, the ones in this country that were just in it for the money, they'll have earned their fortunes. The ones outside of the country will have done their job because they'll have broken the country. So they will have won about it. So what's to be done? What is to be done? What can Parliament do? Because this is now a real route still to a no-deal Brexit. The Benn Act on its own is not going to deal with it. That doesn't mean to say it's useless. It doesn't mean to say it was a waste of time. But it's not, because it missed something, it's not quite going to do it. What can be done? There are two things, one thing, as Julian Moam QC has said, and there's another thing that's also clearly possible. The first thing is to get as many MPs in Parliament to not vote for the withdrawal agreement when he puts it before the House. Because if the withdrawal agreement is sunk when he puts it before the House, he is still bound by the Benn Act. It's not that the Benn Act isn't going to do what it says it's going to do. It is. It's just there's a way to circumvent it. But that requires MP. Now, there will be MPs in the House who want to leave the EU, and they want to leave the EU with the deal, and they're quite happy with the withdrawal agreement as it is. But they are opposed to no deal. What is required, and this is where it is really tricky, it's required that those MPs vote against it. Now, that may be a tough situation for them to sell to their constituents. So I don't imagine, even though I'm sure it will be made clear to every MP in the House what the real situation is, there will still be some who are opposed to no deal who will vote for it knowing that they're voting for no deal, just because how, their communication with their constituents is obviously not going to be good enough. But there needs to be as many people as possible, because Boris Johnson, we've already seen he can whip most of his MPs to vote for whatever. We know that he will get the hardline Brexiteers on side with this. The DUP will be on with it. They'll vote for it, you would think. That'll be a big indicator. Will the DUP vote for it? Well, if they think they're voting for no deal, yeah. There'll be some Labour MPs who'll vote for it. Could pass. So they need to try and persuade as many people as possible that would like to vote for a deal, that they're not voting for a deal and they need to not vote for this. That's one thing. That's tricky. And that's something you don't want to rely on. That's a huge gamble for me. The second thing they can do is, again, obvious. Hopefully the Supreme Court, they're sitting in this next week, but they won't be able to. I don't think anyone's expecting a verdict in this next week. It's likely to be the following week on whether this prorogation is lawful in, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned in overall British law. They'll deliver that verdict. Hopefully it will be to say that the prorogation was not lawful because the advice given was not honest. And they will order the immediate recall of Parliament, which gives Parliament time then to do something about this. Because by far the easiest and definitely the guaranteed way to stop this is the same guaranteed way there has always been to stop this, which is to replace Boris Johnson's government. And Parliament can do that. They just need to be able to work together, something they have so far not done. But that would follow on into my next video. So fairly horrific news for a Sunday evening. I'm sorry about that. But we need to be forewarned of these things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. Until next time, I'll see you later.